All right, quick refresh check. All right, as you can see, guys, $6.4 million in just over 2 years running the store. As you can see, we ran a product up here. Here, we started doing a bunch of TikTok organics stuff. I'll make a future video on that. And then this is when I really started to scale hard with Facebook ads up here. So in this video, I'm going to go through my Facebook ads testing and scaling strategy, as well as making creatives for Facebook, which, full transparency, I don't make my own creatives anymore. I have a team, but I'll still hop in and give you a good idea of hooks and what kind of ads I like to make. All right, guys, as you can see inside this ad account, this is the lifetime I've spent, $1.7 million on this ad account alone. And as you can see, I still have a few of the active CBOs that were running. This one has, 14,000 purchases. This one's off now, but it had 8,400, 6,000, almost 5,000, 4,000, 4,000. Almost 3,500. And we have some other ones down here that I ended up turning off for various reasons, which I'll get into in this video. But what I'm going to show you guys is my testing strategy. It's very simple. I'm going to tell you about the creatives towards the end part of this video, so make sure you stick around. I'm going to hop into CapCut and create creatives for you guys. So as you can see here, this is my testing campaign. So this is where I hold all of my creative tests. So now I'm currently not running some creative tests because I launched a new creative campaign just because there were so many ad sets in this creative test campaign. As you can see, I have tons and tons, and I have had other creative campaigns as well that I've used to test. But basically what I do when I test creatives is it's a very simple process. Don't overthink the creative testing process as far as setting up with ads. The most important part is the product and the offer and the creative. Obviously, the creative is one of the most important things in modern day e-commerce. So basically what I do is I just set up a budget. $20 a day is what I do. You can do $10 a day. It's very simple. And I keep it broad now because I have, $1.7 million of data on this ad account. So now I keep it broad, but when you're testing, I'll show you how to set up a creative test as well. But now I'm just showing you when you're testing creatives after you start, seeing some promise with ads. I set up a broad ad set, 18 plus US, $20. And inside this, I have 1 to 3 creatives inside each. Lately, I've been doing just one creative just because I like to isolate the variables as much as I possibly can. So if you have one ad set, one creative, obviously all the spend is going to one creative. Sometimes when you have 3 creatives in an ad set, all the ad spend will go to one creative. And if it performs bad, a lot of people just turn off the ad set, which what you should do is just turn off the ad so that spend can be allocated to the other creatives. So I like to do one ad set per creative. So whether I'm launching 5 to 10 new creatives per week, that's generally 5 to 10 ad sets. And that's when I'm already scaling. Let's circle back to if you're just starting and setting up creative tests and audience tests. So it's very simply like this: neighbor campaign, test. Manual sales campaign, Advantage Shopping Plus. You can do that maybe at scale. I haven't had a lot of success with it, but some people do. All right, you can leave all this the same. New sales ad set. This is what I will name the interest I'm testing. Obviously, you put the pixel, maximize number of conversions, leave the same. Budget, you can do anywhere from $10 to $20 when you're testing, depending on your budget. Obviously, launch the following day at midnight. USA, I keep everything else the same here, except for I use switch to original audience, because this is where you can do your interest testing. When you are choosing interests, it's not super important because Facebook now, they use your creative, your landing page, your ad copy to target people. But having said that, I have actually had more success using pretty broad single interest ad sets over broad. Even with as much data as I have, I've still had more success with single interest ad sets. Not totally sure why, because some people swear by just broad. But anyways, when you're choosing interests, so if you're selling like a boot, like a fashion boot or something for men, you can do men's fashion, you can do boot, stuff like that, very obvious, very, very basic. But what you can also do is, what would a dude who's into men's boots be into? Like, what would his interest be? So obviously boot. And then you can go down here and look, UGG boots, slip-on shoe, hiking boot. Is it more of a hiking boot? Certain brands, what kind of brands would a person like that? Like Bershka, that's a retailer, probably more for women. Always shows Zara. Those are more for women if you're selling like a women's fashion. So obviously things that are like very relative to what he might be interested in. But I've had a lot of success, especially with women targeting, using people like, I've had this be a winning audience for, I couldn't tell you how many products, but Ellen DeGeneres show, Oprah. A while ago, I sold those years ago, I sold those detox foot patches, and Oprah was one of my best interests consistently, which I never would have guessed if I didn't test it. So sometimes random interests seem to work. If it's like a broad personality like that. I've heard people say like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's a pretty good one. So like a very broad interest. And I like my interest to be high, like 20 million plus at least, because then that gives you a chance to scale. So when you're testing, I like to do that, $20 a day. And then depending on however many creatives you have, so I like to test with 3 to 5 different creatives. I will test 5 to 10 ad sets, preferably closer to 10 if you have the budget, at $10 to $20 a piece, and then go from there. So after day one, if your CPC on all of them is like $3 or $4, it's just everything looks bad, I would just kill it. Either, regroup on your creative strategy, or just straight up kill the product, move on to the next. If after day one, you see CPC looks decent, but you're getting no add to carts or anything, well, you might have to go look at your page. Maybe your pricing is way off. Maybe there's a disconnect between your ad that you're running and your offer. If you don't see anything wrong after doing that, I might let it run for like another half a day just to see if it was a fluke. And if you start to get some add to carts and stuff, then I would let it run. But if you still don't, then I would just cut it and move to the next product. After day one, if you see some add to carts, some initiate checkouts and purchases, then that's a good sign. I would let it run for another day. Obviously, turn off any interests that are getting really high CPC. It's pretty good chance not all of your interests are going to hit. Usually it's like a couple of them, 2 or 3 that show some promise. And then what you'll do is, when you find those winning interests that show some promise after 2-3 days, you're going to duplicate those into a CBO. I start at between $100 and $200 a day. And what I do is I do a single interest CBO. So let's say, for example, this one right here, this ad set we're using boot. Let's say it's absolutely crushing after 1 or 2 days. I would duplicate this ad set to a new campaign and just call it boot CBO. So I'd duplicate that. I would probably start at $100 a day. So I would do advantage campaign budget, 100, and then obviously keep everything else the same. Okay, so you duplicate this into $100 a day CBO, as you see here. Schedule it for the next day, keep everything else the same. And then you just want to monitor it for a couple of days. So a lot of times when I duplicate into a single ad set CBO, day one, usually results just aren't really that great with CBOs. Like my CPCs and stuff are usually higher, but it usually starts to optimize after like day 2 or 3. So you need to be patient with these new CBOs. Now, obviously, if your CPC is like $5 or $6, yeah, you might have to cut it, go back to the drawing board. Maybe there's a fluke for your testing campaign. You never know. But I don't get too emotional on day one of a new CBO, because it's just, you never know. Sometimes it's just not very good day one. But if your ad is really good day one, let's say all of a sudden you come out and you're doing like a 2.5 ROAS on day 2. Well, then what I like to do is at midnight the next day, or really anytime during the day, I just double it to 200. And I keep following this process until it reaches a point to where it's not really working as well. And for me, I've had best success between $1,000 and $2,000 CBOs. That's different for every product. That's different for all people. But day two, if it's day 2 or 3, if it's showing promise, just keep increasing the budget. Now, if you really want to scale hard and really fast, which I don't necessarily recommend, you could screw up your optimization. Because if you change the ad set budget or the budget too quickly, it can unoptimize the ad set. But you can straight up hop this to like 500 and then watch it during the day. If it's crushing in the morning, bump that up to 1,000. And if it's still doing good by midday, 2, 3 p.m., bump that up to like 2,000 and just keep monitoring it. I don't know why it says that. I've had many 2,000 CBOs, but this is definitely a more aggressive strategy if you have the budget and you're a little bit less risk averse, kind of like me. If you like to scale hard and quick, you can definitely do that, but you need to be a little bit more hands-on and watch. I prefer also just scaling a little bit slowly. So doubling it to 200 the next day. And if it's still performing, 300. Many times I've increased the budget during the middle of the day. If the ad set's performing well and it doesn't make a budge, usually I adjust it once or twice per day if it's doing well. So I'll bump it up to 300, next day 400, 500. And at some point, it'll kind of start to stabilize. And if you increase the budget too much, maybe it'll do well on a weekend, but on Monday, it'll totally flop. And then you just have to kind of do the reverse. If it's a bad day, just scale the budget back down a little bit and surf with it a little bit. It's kind of an art. You kind of have to feel your ad account and how it responds to certain budgets. But when you're getting, 2, 3, 4 CBOs running at $1,500, $2,000 a day, that's kind of been my sweet spot of scale. So I'm spending anywhere, between 6 to 10 grand, depending on how many CBOs I have running. And that's usually a steady 2+ ROAS. I like to stay there. It's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more stable as well. You can usually keep those CBOs running a lot longer without even touching them. These CBOs, I've changed the budget off and on. But yeah, guys, that's essentially it. So let me just quickly break down the process again. You're going to create 5 to 10 testing ad sets at $10 to $20 a day with different interests. And I like to have one broad interest as well. Sometimes the broad works really well. And then when those audiences show some promise after 2-3 days, I like to duplicate that into a single ad set CBO. You can do 3 ad sets in that CBO, all the same interest. I personally have just had success with single ad set CBOs. And I actually learned that from another YouTuber. I tested that with this ad account, a little over a year ago, I'd say. And it worked pretty well in this ad account. And, other people preach 3 ad sets, but for me, 1 ad set seemed to work. And then you just got to kind of bump the budget and play with it and try not to get too emotional. If it's one bad day, you're spending $500 a day on a CBO and you break even that day. Don't get too emotional. Monitor it the next day. If the next day you're losing money too, well, then scale that CBO down, obviously. And if the next day you lose money again, just turn that CBO off. But if it's showing promise, just keep adding more budget to it. Just keep adding more budget and just monitor it. If you make a really big change, like from $500 to $2,000 in a day, you're just going to have to be in your ad account a little bit more on that day and just monitor and make sure that Facebook's not sending you crap traffic or something. So, it really is that simple, guys. It might not sound simple, but once you do it, it's not crazy complicated. The biggest needle mover is going to be your product and creative. So when you have creatives that are working and products that are working, many different ad strategies are going to work for you. This is just what I found to be more consistent for me. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into CapCut or whatever the TikTok editing is. It's just a free tool. And I'm going to show you how to make winning video creatives that I would personally test. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about how to create winning ads for Facebook and TikTok, Snapchat even. So I've already pulled these just off TikTok, just from random accounts. Pretty easy to find. If you've seen this product, or if you've done any product research lately, you've probably seen this product, this like scrub brush thing. Pretty cool product, pretty easy, like before and after results, as you can see here. Really dirty pan. You know, everyone has this issue. It's not just like a very niche issue. It's a very, very broad audience, which is nice. And then look at that. Just within 10 seconds, you see the before and after results. So very good. You might even be able to test this as an ad itself. I don't condone stealing other people's content. You know, I get my own content now, but when you're testing different hooks and stuff, it might be good to do this. And this is a very easy product you can make your own content with. So just for testing purposes to see what hooks and angles work, this is a pretty good method. So where was this when I was in college? That's a pretty good hook too. But this video itself is already pretty decent. I would say it's long enough. I would just add like a little shop now at the end. But what we're going to do is we're going to just straight up test this ad for one, because I think it's pretty good. But what we're going to do is we're going to replace this text with something a bit more broad, because obviously college is, you know, a little bit more niche. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace that top text with something like that. And then we're just going to go up here and cover that up. Now, again, obviously this is just for demo purposes. This isn't the most ethical thing to do, but for testing and for demo purposes, this will give you guys a good idea. So now this is going to be the hook for video number 2. Just clean your dirtiest pans in 30 seconds. And then at the end, we'll just put a little, and honestly, the call to action isn't totally necessary nowadays. Like, people know that this is a product and there's a link and stuff, but you can add just like a shop now at the end. And then you can just use like the Jesse voice. Oops, I forgot to put the Jesse, start reading. And you can make the sound a little bit lighter so people know that it's end. And this can be ad number 2. All right, so now we're going to move on to video number 3. As I said before, we're just going to straight up test this first TikTok. We can change up the speed and stuff so Facebook doesn't flag it, especially if you're running on TikTok, change it up. And then ad number 2 is going to have just a different hook. And now we're on to this video right here. So this shows the versatility of the product, which is nice. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. All right, so that's a pretty good ad in itself. We could straight up just test that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a mashup of all these, which is going to show the versatility in many different aspects of the product. So now we have, we're going to get rid of this part, but this itself can be an ad. So we have 3 ads right now. All right, so now we're going to make a mashup of all these, showing the different pans and a couple different hooks. So we're going to start with this hook right here because I think it's pretty good. I'll show you guys real quick. It's the prototype versus the product. So that's a pretty good hook. And then we're going to hop into the other parts of the videos as well. So we're going to take that hook, the prototype versus the product. We're going to extract the audio there. So we're going to cut it off right there. And then we're going to move into the other pans videos and then end with the stovetop. So then we're going to move into this video here with the dirty pan. Just straight up leave it like that. We're going to keep this here. Let's speed this up a little bit. Yep, that looks a lot better. And then we're going to move into the stove. It even cleans their stone like a breeze. All right, let's go back and watch it. Gotta move this. Speed this up a little bit. speed this up a little bit. Move this here. Move this here. All right, let's check it. Yeah. So that honestly, I might test this video ad. It's a pretty good Facebook ad. It's more Facebook addy than like a typical TikTok UGC video. But sometimes ads like this work really well. Sometimes UGC works really well. So that's why we've created a few variations already. A couple just UGC style. And we're going to do one more. We're going to test one more different hook. So right now we have this prototype video. And next, we're going to test this hook, the hate touching wet, dirty sponges. So we're going to extract audio, cut that, move these so that they're touching. And let's watch this one. All right, and the rest of the ad is the same as one before. So now we have two hooks for this more like ad salesy type video. And then we also have two different UGC type videos. And honestly, I might test these myself. I haven't tested this product, but you know, it's a lot of people are already selling it, but I still might test it because I don't think anyone's made ads like this. So this just gives you, I think, a good chance when it comes to testing products. And it's a little bit more effort than just straight up ripping creatives from TikTok and just testing those because that's what everyone does. So if you just add a little bit more effort, and by no means is this like the best ad. I'm not a video editor. Usually, you know, I have a team of video editors that work for me now. This is just something I whipped on myself. Obviously, I would, you know, give this to a video editor, this style, and I would say, yeah, make it better, make it clean, make the transitions better. But this gives them an idea. And this is something you can do yourself with no video editing experience. This is a free tool that you can use. And it's a really easy way to create and get some good testing ads. Because when you test, you want to make sure you give yourself the best possible. Because when you're testing, you want to make sure you give yourself the best possible chance to succeed. And just spending a little bit more time making creatives will certainly help you, because the two biggest factors, much more than website, is creative, product, and offer. So this is the creative part. And I talked about the ad strategy before and how you can scale your Facebook ads. In a future video, I will talk about Snapchat ads as well. And I'll also be uploading a product research video as well. This is just a product I found, 10 seconds scrolling on TikTok made me buy it, which, this is just for a video example. But I will go in depth on free product research methods, which is primarily what I use. I don't really use paid tools very much because everyone sees the same products. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I, brought some value to you guys. Like and subscribe. A bunch of you guys have asked me about mentorships. Might be something I do. I might take on a handful of people just to help you guys out. But we will see. Check the pinned comment if I do decide to add some sort of mentorship to this thing. So thanks again for watching, guys.